Why do we think it's okay for our neurodivergent children to have to fit in this box and follow this mould of what is considered normal?
Such a good point.
Our children get there. They just get there in their time, in their way, and in a way that works for them.
You wait until you're serving lunch to a room full of preschoolers and one of them goes, disgusting, and suddenly all of them are going, disgusting. Oh no, it's yummy. Hello!
We got some new coffee cups.
We have got some lovely tiny coffee cups. That's what the slurping was. Yeah.
For the audio listeners, that was a slurping noise. They're pretty good.
Yep.
Tiny, perfect, sort of child adjacent. I'm happy with them.
Lovely.
Who do we have on the show this week with us and our lovely tiny coffee cups?
We have Cheryl Warren. She's talking to us about SEND.
It's a good topic, isn't it? And we're talking a lot about the actionable stuff and, what she's seeing in settings and how she's supporting settings and SENCOs right around the country with the kind of challenges that they're facing. So very good stuff. Lots of good stuff about neurodiversity affirming care. So I'm very excited to get into it.
Me too.
Should we get started?
I think we should.
All right, let's do it.
Matthew, would you introduce our guest, please?
I would absolutely love to. So Cheryl is a freelance SEND consultant and is the director of Aperion training, which I just learned how to pronounce, which is good. Cheryl has over 30 years of experience in the earlier sector as a nanny, family support, LA advisor, SENCO, trainer, assessor, lecturer, and quality inspector. What a roll call that is. Cheryl was awarded Trainer of the Year at the 2022 Nursery World Awards, whoop whoop, and has written a book called Neurodiversity in the Early Years, which is going around the world right now, as is Cheryl, on all sorts of appearances like this one to chat about it. She does speaking, she does writing, consultancy for parents and early years settings, as well as guesting on podcasts, just like this one. Well, hopefully not too much just like this one. It's been my honour to know Cheryl for many, many years. And while Cheryl is fun in podcast formats, she's also maybe even more fun when we have drinks after various things and moan about people who are at the table next door and then realise that they're there.
You've not been gossiping, have you, Matthew?
That's one of my most embarrassing moments in my life was I was gossiping about someone to Cheryl. It wasn't Cheryl's fault. It was definitely just me. And then he was around the corner. So anyway, welcome to the podcast, Cheryl.
Lots to unpack there, I think.
Do you remember that, Cheryl? That was an awkward moment, wasn't it?
It was one of those awkward moments. Yeah, it really, really was. But funny. But yes, thanks for having me.
And thanks for being here. And we were just talking about the name Aperion. Where does that come from? Because Julia knew, I didn't know. So maybe some of our listeners don't either.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this was you know my husband very well as well. And when I was setting up doing what I'm doing now, it was kind of, should we have a name? Should it just be my name? And then he does what he does and goes kind of Googling and searching and looking for different things. And we came across Aperion, and it is the Greek word for endless, boundless, infinite. And that combined with the butterflies, which is what I have on my logo, it's kind of that suggestion that, come and do some training, come and do some work with me. But it doesn't stop there. Your learning has to continue. It's not, and it will continue to grow and develop. And you, as the butterfly, will have that butterfly effect in terms of your boundless support and advocacy for children and families. So there you go.
Oh, what a great early plug as well. Fantastic.
Shall we start with an ick? An early years ick. Do you know what an ick is, Cheryl?
Just a kind of like, yeah. One of those.
You have teenagers, right? I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they know all about icks. What would you say is your early years ick?
An early years ick.
Yeah, something in the early years whenever you see it, you're like, ugh.
We've had Plastic Ivy from Alistair Bryce Clegg, sitting on tables. That was Alice Sharp's. Or Pinafores, yeah.
Do you know, for me, it's not necessarily, I think, something that I see. It's something I hear. Can it be something I hear?
It can definitely be something you hear.
Okay. For me, it would be, well, we've always done it like that.
Love it. Yeah.
That kind of like, no. Just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do right now. Or for that child, or for the cohort you've got, or for, it's that, a bit like what I was saying about in terms of my company. We've got to keep growing. We've got to keep evolving. And sometimes because we've always done it isn't the right thing, isn't the reason we should still be doing it. So that would probably be it. More than what I see, something I hear.
Yeah, I love that. And it's because it's like whenever you get when people are like, well, why are you doing this way? And we've always done it that way. That's not a reason, is it?
No.
There's more to it, I think, even than that, because even if you have always done it a certain way and that way's always been really successful, which, you know, can be the case, but then build on it. You know, there's more to do, right? There's more kind of, there's more to investigate, more to find.
Absolutely. It's that linking that curiosity thing.
Love it. And then we're doing a new thing.
Don't know if it's new anymore, is it?
Feels a bit new. Still to me.
Go on. All right.
A new-ish thing called an early years pick. So it's the opposite. It's like you get to airlift one thing into every single early years setting in the country. It could be a person, it could be a resource, it could be a concept. You get to airlift something into like any early years setting in the country. What would it be? Your early years pick.
Limitless budget as well.
Probably for me, in line with what I do, it would be making sure that in every single room, in every single early years setting, we have something in an area called a place of escape. Somewhere where, because we think that all of our children, especially obviously with the work that I do around neurodivergent children, need this fandangled thousands of pounds spent on a sensory room for calming. And for me, in terms of what I want to see in every single room, is that just that little nook, that little space where our children, when they're overwhelmed, when things are getting too much, when they have learnt that in terms of self-regulation, that's something that can support them, there is somewhere where they can go to within the room that is a retreat, is a reset, is a space for decompression, that doesn't require extra members of staff, that doesn't require time out with extra members of staff out of the room. So yeah, a place of escape. We have it as staff. You know, we get to go off for our lunch break. We might go for a walk.
Such a good point.
We might even just pop to the local supermarket, or we might have a nice staff room that we can go and sit into and pop our headsets on, watch a Netflix for a bit. Where do our children go to decompress, to reset when things get too much for them? So my pick would be a place of escape certainly in every toddler room, preschool room.
Lovely.
That's pretty nice, isn't it? I also guess because it's about empowerment, isn't it, as well? It's about like, I'm going to allow you to choose when you want to go and have that moment. I think that's really important as well, that it's not like, okay, it's place of escape time now. You get your slot in the place of escape. It's like
true.
empowering children to self-regulate when they know they need it.
I do love a sensory room though.
Do we have a place of escape in the office, Julia?
Just go home.
Just go home. That's not always a place of escape, is it? Let's be honest.
No, it's true. I suppose, but it goes back to what we've been saying for such a long time now about this privilege that we have as adults to make those decisions. Like you said, you know, if I'm feeling overwhelmed in the office, I can go to somewhere quieter, or I can go to a meeting room and close the door. And, you know, but do we afford children the same autonomy to make those decisions about when they're experiencing overwhelm? And yeah, definitely something to reflect on, I think. It's
somewhere where they don't need to ask permission to go into, or don't need an adult to go with them. It's their, like you say, it's their, you know, they're in terms of autonomy, self-advocacy. I'm kind of done for a minute and I just need to take a breather.
Absolutely.
Quick fire? Should we quick fire go on?
Absolutely.
You first or me?
I'm going to go first.
All right.
Taking charge. What's one thing that you think parents worry about that they really shouldn't?
What everybody else thinks.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of my parenting journey, that's taken me a long time to get to. You know, my children are living their life differently because their brains are wired differently. And with that comes lots of judgment and criticism. And yeah, don't worry about what everybody else thinks. Don't look at Instagram and go, oh, it should be like that. No, you permission to parent your way.
Yeah, spot on. Julia?
I would like to know, what do you think that we actually get right in the early years that the rest of the education system could replicate or maybe follow suit with?
Our passion.
Ooh.
We are so passionate about early years. We just, I think if you're in it and you are that person that has just taken early years to your heart, like thousands and thousands do across the country. You know, I'm privileged enough to work with settings up and down the UK, and the passion and the passion that's there when the world and everything else is telling you that early years doesn't matter. It's still there. You know, the passion to do right by our children and the passion to want to do the best that you can for the children that you've got in your setting, I think is something that would be great to be seen everywhere else within the education sector.
Amazing.
Yeah, the early years passion and just that dedication to early years.
Do you know what? I don't think I blame secondary school teachers. I think they have a really hard time. Like if I'm a geometry teacher and I'm like, I can't wait to teach these kids about triangles, and some poor kid's like, "Shap, say you're bald." Like you don't get that from a 4-year-old, do you? They come and give you a cuddle. Like walk in the room to a preschool room and they can't wait to, they're like, "Oh yeah, Julia's here. I'm so excited." Yeah. Try that with a room full of 14-year-olds. Goodness me.
Although I have to say, 4-year-olds can be brutal as well.
This is true.
If you're reading a story and they don't like it or they don't like the voice you're putting on, they'll tell you.
You wait until you're serving lunch to a room full of preschoolers and one of them goes, disgusting. And suddenly all of them are going, disgusting. And, you've got to try and persuade them. Oh, no, it's yummy.
Yeah, really nice.
4-year-olds can do groupthink as well.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, that's fair.
They pile on.
But I do think it teams into something we've been discussing quite a lot, which is like, how do we make the positive case for early years? And I think you're right. There is something about like, yes, it can be so challenging and so exhausting, but ultimately you get such amazing feedback loops that are missing sometimes later in education when you're trying to teach geometry to that miserable 15-year-old.
And you can't teach geometry unless it's the early years foundations are there. And I talk a lot about our early years educators being those architects and those brain builders and the importance of what we do. And I think if we've, with those educators that hold that dear to them, about the importance of what they do, their passion is just unwavering. And I love it.
Lovely.
I love it. But let's get into the main reason why we've had you here today, Cheryl, not just to ask random questions to you, but to talk about SEND and the work that you do with settings. I know you're spending a lot of time in various early years settings at the moment. You're delivering a webinar the minute you get off this call, back to back today. And I guess we just wanted to kind of dig into the details of what's really going on right now and what you're seeing that's changing, and maybe start by just asking, when you get called into settings for support, what do you find is the catalyst often? Like, what's the moment where they realise they need some extra support and then you end up kind of coming in?
Different ways in terms of the way that I start working with people. I'll either meet people when I'm speaking at events, so they'll hear me speak and go, "Oh, I didn't know this, my staff don't know this," or "We know a little bit, but we know we need to know a little bit more." And actually, when you were speaking, you were describing Fred or Jake, and we really need some help with Fred or Jake. Or it starts with a training course, so they're looking for some CPD inset training, and I'll go in and deliver that. But generally, in terms of my consultancy, it tends to be linked to the children's behaviour that either the team are not understanding, or again, like I was saying earlier, in terms of passion, they want to help this child, but they feel like they've tried everything and don't know. They feel that there are developmental differences being observed, but they feel that they don't have, I talk lots about little toolboxes, they don't have enough kind of tools in their toolbox to be able to pull out the strategies or understand what's going on for that child, to offer them what they feel that they need to offer that child and that family as well. So it's a variety of different things. I mean, just yesterday I had a phone call from a lady who has 8 settings, and she said, we're seeing more and more children coming through that we're thinking might be neurodivergent. They're kind of what they're observing are those kind of early indicators possibly of this, like I say, this developmental difference. They know as well, and rightly or wrongly, there's also that, Ofsted are now going to be looking deeper at inclusion. That's higher up on the agenda. So how can I provide the best that I can for the child whilst also making sure that my team are as confident as they can be in what we're doing in delivering true inclusion? So it kind of comes from varying different angles. But although the kind of Ofsted thing, because that voice is coming through in terms of inclusion, is there now, it doesn't start with that. It always starts with, I don't feel my team are as confident or as have got the skills, because we know, don't we, that the training isn't necessarily as robust as it could be in terms of the level 3, in terms of SEN. Certainly from teachers' perspective, if you go and do a PGCE, you get 1 afternoon's training on SEND. That's it. 1 afternoon on SEND training. And if you go and do the local authority training around SEN, it tends to be around how you fill out the paperwork and the processes for EHCP requests and things like that. Not, what do I do with Fred at 9 o'clock on a Friday morning? He's come in, he's completely dysregulated, he's throwing everything around, he's already bitten 3 children. How can I support him? What's going on for him? So that tends to be the catalyst. And people are looking for a new approach. They're looking for a new way. So, I talk about neurodiversity affirming practice, and it's the first time we're hearing those words for some people. What is neurodiversity? What do you mean neurodiversity affirming? It's a different approach. Again, going back to the question, we've always done it this way. It's a different way of a different lens to view our children through.
Like, it's really helpful to know that while you might have some of those almost compliance, like we're almost too focused on the compliance side of it, whether it's the local authority or whether it's Ofsted, actually what people are really needing is to be equipped with those toolboxes to actually support the children who are really in their care. It's sad that almost we end up starting at the wrong end for it sometimes.
I'm curious as well how educators can balance that local authority requirement to do certain types of paperwork, to do certain tracking, to do this kind of very tick-boxy exercise in order to potentially get some sort of funding or even towards getting an EHCP, which we'll talk a bit more about later. But how can we jump through those hoops but still deliver practice that is authentic to the needs of the children and what they actually need, rather than another bit of paperwork?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there has to be, if we're talking about the local authority processes in terms of referrals and everything else, there has to be a process. Of course, there has to be a process, and that will involve paperwork. But we have to remember that and again, I know one of the things that we're going to go on to is possible kind of myths and things that people think they have to do or not. People think we have to get a referral to support a child. There's that kind of thought process that we have to have a diagnosis before we can support the child, or we have to have the parent's signature or permission before we can do anything. Well, that's not actually the case. We have to have this needs-led approach, and we have to think about how can we support this child in this moment who is in front of us right now. And there is so much that we can do to support that child. We don't need a tick box. We don't need a diagnosis. We don't need a referral. It's looking at your environment. We talked about a place of escape. It's looking at your transitions. It's looking at your routine. It's looking at I'm talking lots to people about your flex, in terms of your flexibility in your environment, in your expectations for what these children are able to do. Because again, when we're thinking about behaviour, we quite often kind of go, well, the child can't sit still. They refuse to do this. They won't do this unless they, take their shoes off or whatever. For many of our children, they're unable to do the things that we're asking them to do. And it's not because they don't want to, they can't. And there is a difference between the two. So there is a lot that we can do in terms of the shifts in our spaces and our approach that don't need those bits of paper, don't need those referrals, but then the frustration comes that I was at a setting on Tuesday. They've got a little boy who I saw, and yes, there are lots and lots of developmental differences being observed by this little boy. And I can see, I can see him going down the path of we're potentially moving towards that neurodivergent profile for him. Nothing can be done in terms of, we talk about early intervention, we talk about early identification. But in order for that member of staff to start the process of the paperwork and referrals, because they've done all the bits that they can in terms of the flex in the space, the local authority have to come out and see this little boy. Well, they've been waiting 3 months.
3 months? 3
months. There's barriers. So again, what is the catalyst for me coming in? Quite often it's because They want to, yes, they know they've got to do those processes, but they want to support the child now, but they're not getting any help. They're not getting any guidance because of waiting lists or, whatever it might be.
You touched on something there which I thought was quite interesting regarding parental permissions or signatures, and is that something that you're seeing or that settings are reporting, that parents aren't necessarily on board with any kind of extra support or additional,
I hear it a lot because, yes, it's, and the narrative that comes out, and I'm actually, again, talking about webinars, I'm doing another one in a couple of weeks, there's that narrative that parents are in denial. So we can't get a permission, or they won't enter into conversation with us because they're in denial. We're not in denial. I am that parent. I've got 2 neurodivergent boys. I am that parent. We're not in denial. We're just not ready to have that conversation yet, because that conversation is a scary one to have. So we might be observing developmental differences at home. We might have had the early years key person, SENCO manager come and talk to us about things that they're seeing. But I'm not ready to talk about it because it's scary, because I might be blamed or criticised as a parent. We know the narrative that's coming out in various different places and here and across the pond on blame for why our children might be autistic or ADHD. It's scary to say. I mean, I knew my eldest son was autistic when he was about 2.5 years old. I couldn't say it out loud because it scared the hell out of me. So I couldn't have had that conversation yet. So yes, there are those parents that might be seemingly not on board, but it's not for the reasons that a lot of people think.
It's a lot of stigma, right? It's a lot of people being fearful and stigma and so on.
Absolutely. People are going to change. People are going to look at my child differently. People are going to, there's something wrong with my child. There's nothing wrong with our children, but that's the narrative that comes across. So it's not that we're in denial. We're not ready to have that conversation. And, I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago and, it was brought up in there. Context matters for our children and for our families. So culturally, financially, in terms of relationships, in terms of a parent's own learning journey, their experiences at school, maybe their undiagnosed neurotype could be a factor at play as to why they're not yet ready to have that conversation. But it's okay that they're not yet ready to have that conversation. I talk lots about providing safe spaces for children. We need to provide safe spaces for families too, so that when they're ready to have that conversation, you're the person they feel safe enough to have that conversation with, because it's not an easy conversation to have.
I think you have in many ways, not necessarily unique, but such an interesting perspective of having been on sort of both sides of the aisle with this one. Like, I wonder if you have any perspectives for educators or managers or SENCOs out there who know they have a parent that is not quite ready yet, how the best ways to open up that conversation in a way that does create that safe space for the parent based on what you've observed and what you've experienced yourself.
It's about your relationships. It's about your connection and that link of trust and how you're providing that sense of belonging for your families. So it starts from even the narrative that's on your website. If your website is talking about, if you've got concerns about your child's development, if you think your child's development might be delayed, that's where the narrative starts that, there's a problem. And do I want to say it? So it's about, again, that neurodiversity affirming narrative that's running through your setting. So what does it say on your website? Does it talk about, and I've said it before, developmental differences? All of our children are following different paths. So if we can say, Johnny's done this today, it was amazing to see it. Have you seen that at home? Have you seen the way that he does that at home? And even in the conversations when you're doing your show rounds, again, are you talking concerns? Are you talking delays? Or are you asking the questions around, tell me about Johnny. Is he a good sleeper? God, we know it's a really tricky time, isn't it? Toddlerhood, they're going through lots of changes. No, he doesn't really sleep. Or, how things are in terms of when you're out at Tesco's. God, that can be a really tricky time, can't it? God, I've had a real nightmare with my child at the weekend. Oh, yeah, Johnny doesn't do that. We have to, I found out earphones help him when we're going around those. And you're starting to pick up on that dialogue that it's okay to be talking about these things, and it's okay to, like we said earlier, parent your child in the way that is supportive of your child. But I will always make sure that we're building that connection with our parents. Sometimes, especially with those parents where you've got to have the third conversation in 2 days about the child that's bitten. You've got to call Johnny's mum in to say he's bitten again. How about on a day when he hasn't bitten, you call her in and just say, look, do you know what? I've got half an hour before my next meeting. I've just got a new pack of biscuits in. Want to come and have a chat? Yeah. Just chat about traitors. Just chat about Strictly Come Dancing. I don't care what you talk about. Just build that conversation and that trust and that relationship and that connection, so parents feel okay and safe to have that conversation with you for when the tough conversations come. But it's all about your narrative.
I've always loved this phrase, like, fix the roof while the sun is shining, right?
Absolutely.
I think it's such an important point and so nuanced around how is your relationship with that parent if the only conversations you're ever having are negative ones. How difficult is it to then have that safe space? And so I think it's such a good point of, like, building those relationships when you might need to cash those relationships in the future, when you then have to have that more challenging conversation.
Absolutely, because otherwise it's a kind of you just feel like you're on the attack all the time, or you feel like you're having to apologise for your child all the time, and we have to do that enough. And like we said earlier about early years being this amazing space, it has to be this amazing space for the whole family, especially when we're talking about neurodivergent families.
Time for the ad. Who are we sponsored by this week, Julia?
Ooh, lovely. We are sponsored by Sidekick, Family's AI writing assistant.
No. We did that a few episodes ago. Remember you were wearing the robot head?
I don't know what you're talking about. But I did get Tom, our guest from a few episodes ago, to talk to us about how Sidekick is helping them at Naturally Learning.
All right, I'm convinced. Let's see what he has to say.
Having Sidekick for my team is a huge confidence boost. We see so many staff who maybe didn't post very many observations, maybe they didn't engage too much with families and things on it, whereas now, because of Sidekick, they can do that and they can interact with families directly with absolute confidence without having to worry about whether their spelling or grammar is correct, or whether actually they're using the right word or the tone of it is in the right way. They just have fun with it. That's the really lovely thing about Sidekick, is it isn't just about telling you off when you've spelled things wrong. It's actually about having a bit of fun and playfulness around using the technology.
Pretty powerful stuff, right?
I'll admit that was pretty good. Go on then. If people are interested, where can they find out more?
They don't need to.
What do you mean?
No, they don't need to. If you're already a family customer, then Sidekick is now going to be added to your platform for free.
Oh, that's pretty cool. How does that work then?
Well, obviously we can't give everything away for free. We have to, make sure that the engineers get paid for making new features and keeping everything safe. And of course, there's Mickle's enormous makeup budget. But Sidekick is actually one of our most popular features. It's been super, super helpful for educators who are dyslexic, struggle with literacy, or have English as an additional language. And it's been used over 1 million times. Nice. Well then, if you need help with your writing and you want it in your family platform and you're not already a family customer, what can I do? You can go to family.co/demo and then one of our lovely sales team will show you how it works. Nice. All right then, let's get back to the pod. Let's get back to the pod. Going back slightly to visiting settings, we talked a little bit about some of the gaps that you're seeing in terms of training or potentially that toolbox that educators need. When you first go in and visit a setting to offer some support, what is it that you're looking for? What's some of the investigative work that you do to try and work out how you can help? The first thing I do is sit down and have that conversation with the SENCO. And I want to know, where are they in terms of their training, their understanding, their experience with regards to the support for their children. And then I want to know from their perspective, where do they think the team are at? So I'm building that kind of picture as to, before I go into the rooms, before I go into the spaces, where do you think the challenges lie? But also, where are your strengths? What's working?
how is your relationship with your families? How is the relationship with your local authority and additional partners in terms of health visitors, OTs, speech and language? Have you got those connections? And then quite often we'll then go into a conversation about specific children. You know, could you please have a look at so-and-so in preschool? We've got, you know, so-and-so in nursery, we're just waiting for assessment or has just been diagnosed, or we've just started those kind of initial observations. So I build up an understanding of where I place my time. I tend to be with them for sort of 5-6 hours for the day. And it's where do I need to spend my time? And more often than not, it's in toddler room and it's in preschool room. And then I go in and you will find me on the floor. I'll have my little notepad, and more often than not, I tend to have a couple join me with their own little notepads and their own little bits of paper and starting writing notes next to me. What are you doing? Can I write on your bit of paper? Which is really sweet. And I want to then observe the environment, how the children are navigating the space, where they're spending their time. Are they playing independently? Are they playing with others? How are they at the sand tray when other children join them? Do they back away? Are they quite happy in terms of parallel play? Or are they seemingly worried about the unpredictability of the other children around the sand tray? I tend to stick around until lunchtime. Lunchtime is that big transition, and lunchtime is always a really, really tricky time for our children. So I will be in the rooms. I want to see that transition for lunch. I want to see how that child is supported for lunchtime. And then really whilst I'm in the room, I'm also gathering information from the child's key person. How well do they know that child? What questions or queries have they got? What are they struggling with? What are their strengths? And then more often than not, I tend to end up modelling and using opportunities in that space as a bit of a coaching moment. So on Tuesday, when I was at a setting, I was in one of their toddler rooms. They've got a couple of toddler rooms. I was in one of their toddler rooms with a child specifically that again, that passion is there. We want to do the best that we can for this little girl, but are we doing it right? Is there any more that we could do? And this little girl, she's on the pathway to diagnosis for assessment. She's pre-verbal. She has a preference for solitary play. She also does a lot of stimming. She's also a sensory seeker. And some of those things, in terms of the narrative, in terms of the wording and the knowledge, the team weren't there. So sensory seeking, it was the first time they'd heard that phrase. So again, it was in that moment when she was doing it, I was supporting them in understanding what she was doing and why she was doing it potentially. And then she stood still and noticed the clock on the wall. And she'd been stimming for ages, pacing up and down and smiling and jumping. And she just stood dead still. And she was looking up at this clock. And I got down the clock and she put her ear to it. So I then put my ear to the clock. And I was then going, tick, tock, tick, tock. We spent 5-6 minutes with her looking at me with this connection. She placed her hand on my arm to continue to do it. And I talk lots about meeting children where they are. And the staff, I sort of turned around and the staff were just kind of like looking at me. Like, how did you do that? What have you done? She's not done that before. And it's joining. So it's that coaching, it's that modelling, it's that neurodiversity affirming practice in action that then I can then feed back and go, this is the reason I did it. Can you see the connection, the trust and that sense of belonging that was met through it? And using that as an opportunity for learning and for progression. So it kind of goes, I want to gather the data or I want to gather the evidence. I want to be that detective, but then I also want to go in and I want to be covered in flour and water and grime and tick-tocking with a clock to kind of show what I mean when I'm talking about that practice.
Do you think we're moving in the right direction? The reason I ask that is because back when I was working in settings, the sort of generic, I guess, approach to supporting neurodivergence or disability was very kind of, it was the plan, do, review, graduated approach. But it was very much like, how can we called it inch stones rather than milestones, which I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that language anyway. But it was kind of this like,
Or aren't they?
how
Inch
can
stones,
we
I guess. Yeah.
how can we inch stone them towards what is effectively neurotypical conforming development? And we talked a little bit about this with Kerry. Like, are we moving towards more affirming practice where we're talking about supporting children to be themselves in their play and their development, or are you still seeing a lot of that kind of, how can we just push them towards neurotypically conforming development?
Absolutely. And
that was a long question, sorry.
That's all right. I'm also in agreement with you. Inch stones, really don't like that.
Adding that to the ick list, I think. Inch stone, big
Add
ick.
it. Inch stones instead of milestones, I know.
Yeah, don't like that. A lot of what I see is still very much in terms of a lot of the, and again, it's a word I don't like, interventions. A lot of the interventions that come in that again, early years educators are asked to do are very much about, well, we need to get this child school ready. We need to get this child sitting on the carpet and listening to the adult and attention and everything else.
Dear me.
Yeah. So yeah, Kerry and I are very aligned. Love what Kerry does and her approach as well. We're very much on the same path. In terms of neurodiversity affirming practice, it is that celebratory approach for where our children are. And it's not to say that we should just get rid of anything and kind of, well, our children aren't going to progress and our children, what we can't expect too much from. That's not what this is about. But this is about celebrating where our children are and knowing that our children are on their own pathway of development. When I've had conversations about my children, my children are not delayed in their development. They're just following a different path. Divergent.
It's in the word.
When you drive a car and you go along and then the road is blocked and there is a sign that says diversion and you turn right and then you turn left, you go in a couple of roundabouts, where do you end up? Where you were supposed to in the first place. You end up on the path that you would be following. Our children get there. They just get there in their time, in their way, and in a way that works for them. So when we're thinking about communication, the end goal is not verbal communication. The end goal is communication. So how can we support that child to communicate their needs, their wants, to self-advocate in a way that feels true and authentic and safe for them? So this is not about, and again, I don't know whether I want to get into it or not, but in terms of the early years foundation stage, in terms of development matters, birth to 5, those milestones, whatever they are, checklists that people are still using them with, they are written for your average neurotypical child. Yeah. They've not been written for our neurodivergent children. So we need to look at how we support our children to make our children do make progress. They do. They just do it at a time and a pace that is authentic to them because their brain is wired differently, because they are processing the world differently. But again, I talk about it all the time. It's kind of on my T-shirt when I go to events. Our children are different, but we've placed the equal sign next to different and we've put the word deficit. Different does not mean deficit. Different does not mean problem or something to be fixed or cured. My children don't need fixing or curing. My youngest, he's 11. He's just taken his mock SATs. We're not even going to go down that route of SATs, quite frankly.
Let's not take that one. That'll be a while.
But he's just done. And on Friday last week, he came back with his paper for spellings. So they did a mock spelling paper, right? It was the first time that I saw, heard and felt this sense of shame for him. Ugh. Because he came out with his paper and he said, please don't show it to Grandad. Please don't show it to Grandy. Just you and John, it's my husband, just you and John can see it. He got 2 out of 25. He's dyslexic. Why are we asking a dyslexic to do a spelling paper? It's like saying, wheelchair user, if you're a wheelchair user, you've got to do your 10,000 steps a day. And if you don't, you're going to fail. You've got to get your trainer license. Go and run a lap of the track. You've got to get your pen license. Do your cursive writing. Why do we think it's okay for our neurodivergent children to have to follow this box, to fit in this box and follow this mold of what is considered normal.
It reminds me of that expression, and I can't remember who to attribute it to, where it's like a fish is perfect at being a fish, but if you judge it by its ability to ride a bicycle, it's going to spend its life thinking it's useless. I'll have to look up who to attribute that to.
There's something about elephants and jumping, isn't there, as well? Similar.
Yeah.
And I really thought that example of the clock was a really powerful one about that point that you make, that like, that's progress. That was progress in action. You developing that relationship, her being able to communicate with you through touch, that was progress. But as you say, you might not find it on the development matters. But it is communication progress in action. And I love that point, that it's like,
absolutely,
it's not that progress is not taking place, it's just that it might not be progress in the way that we typically understand progress to be, on a standard deviation of what progress looks like amongst a cohort of children.
And I shared a story, I share it quite a bit, and it's in my book as well, around I was at a setting and I was observing a little boy, and a parent arrived with their child. Key person went over to greet and do their handover. And there was this real big excitement and laughter and screams and hugs between the key person and the parent. And then later on that morning, I went over to the key person. I went, what was that? What happened? The parent had said to the key person that their child had licked a banana that morning. That was progress. And the relationship and the connection between the key person and the parent, the key person knew the importance of that for that parent, so celebrated that win. And we need to celebrate those wins. But it's the important things for us as us as families. That child has a very limited diet. They don't try new things. Certainly not fruit. They threw the banana on the floor after they licked it, but they licked a banana. That was huge. And it's meeting our children where they are and seeing those small steps of progress, because they're there.
Wonderful. Such a great segue into our most ridiculous segment of the day.
Ooh,
are you ready?
Yeah.
We're going to go on after this to talk a little bit about compliance and EHCPs and local authorities. But before we get there, we're going to take an incredibly silly diversion, which is our new game called Imaginary Friend. It's something me and Julia have been working on the last couple of podcasts, and we think we might be on for a hit.
I think your use of the word new is doing a lot of heavy lifting recently.
That is true. The same way this T-shirt is new. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the idea is this, Cheryl. You're about to open a setting, and your business partner and manager of the setting is one of the following, and you have to pick between the two. So you're like the owner, they're going to be the manager of the setting, and you have to pick who you want it to be.
Okay.
You ready?
Go on then.
So you got to choose between, first of all, Casper the Friendly Ghost and Postman Pat.
Oh. Casper the Friendly Ghost or Postman Pat?
Oh, I didn't think it would be such a hard decision.
That is a tough one.
Postman Pat, punctual.
Punctual, organised, reliable.
Also gets into a lot of capers, though.
Yeah, but he is also physically present. That
he
helps.
is, but Greendale...
Everybody likes him. He's a good standing citizen within his community. I'd probably go with him,
Okay.
All right.
It's that somebody that people know that they can rely on, knows the people around them, knows the families, knows what people need.
He does know the community.
He does, yeah.
Postman Pat it is then. Next up is Postman Pat or Big Bird from Sesame Street.
Oh, Postman Pat, Big Bird scares me. Scared me as a child. No.
Oh, I love
Agreed.
Big Bird.
No, anything dressed, no.
All right, we're still on Postman Pat. So Postman Hat or Ben and Holly from Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom. So you get 2 for 1 there.
Oh, gosh, that's probably slightly out of my... Do I remember Ben and Holly?
Oh, gosh. Well, then stick with
Do you
Postman.
not know Ben and Holly?
I also didn't know Ben and Holly either.
I love
Sticking
Ben
with
and
Postman
Holly.
Pat then.
Yeah.
Better the devil you know. Postman Pat then or Moana.
She's a good singer.
Oh, Moana, because she can sing. I love a musical. She could sing a song. Yeah,
Lovely.
Moana. Strong woman.
Moana or the Incy Wincy Spider.
Oh no, Moana. Don't like spiders.
Really? But he's so resilient. The
Yeah,
rain
but
washed
can't
him
sing.
out and he climbed up again.
No,
No,
Moana
alright.
can sing.
So we got Moana or the cow that jumped over the moon.
Physically agile.
Physically agile.
Inventive.
Knowledge of space travel.
Creative. I'd still probably go Moana.
Okay, sticking with Moana.
Offer some milk for your Weetabix. No? All right. Moana it is. Moana or Jack and Jill So again, you got 2 for 1 there.
What have they done? They've
Climbed
gone
a
up
hill.
They're clumsy.
True, but they were fetching a pail of water, hydration.
Yeah, resourceful. Vinegar and brown paper. Yeah, that's early years, isn't it? Resourceful. We haven't got quite what we need.
I'm not sure about those first aid skills though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Vinegar and brown paper that's not on the paediatric first aid certificate. I'll tell you that for free.
You never know. Might come in. Things change.
Nice. Are we going with Jack and Jill? I love it.
Yeah, go with Jack and Jill. Let's change it up a bit.
And then finally, to close us off, Jack and Jill or Donald Duck?
He's a celebrity, isn't he?
He is, and given that my husband John does a wicked Donald Duck impression that makes my children laugh every time he does it, because he brings it out in really random, awkward situations to make everybody laugh. I'll go Donald Duck.
I love it.
Donald Duck.
Love it. Perfect.
Donald Duck is the imaginary friend.
I will say a bit of a safeguarding concern that he doesn't have any pants on. That's a bit of a problem.
Well,
But other than that,
Yeah, I've been around enough neurodivergent children who prefer their clothes off, so I'm used to that. That's fine.
love it. We haven't got long before we need to let you go,
yeah, we're
Cheryl, but
running
we
out
did
of
want to
time.
finish off by talking a little bit about the kind of state of the nation. And I know it's a tricky and fun topic to end up on.
Can we end on a high with another one at the end?
We'll find something fun to talk about.
doom
at the
and gloom
end.
only now, I'm afraid.
What's your thoughts on sort of the latest? I know there's sort of the latest white paper from the DfE has been a bit delayed. I know there's been lots of conversations going on, probably some stuff you know more than others. There's maybe some stuff you can't say. But I'm interested in what your thoughts are around, what you would like to see change and what you would maybe like to see come with this increased focus on SEND. And
What's on your wish list?
Yeah, been delayed, should have been out in the autumn. Now they're saying it's going to come out in January. Apparently it's because they want some time to build an effective coalition, in essence, to get families on board with the changes. So we'll see. We'll see if that's it. They've not listened to us so far, but I'm not going to get too political. For me, I think we know that the current system ain't working. It's in crisis, and something has to change. The fear and the concern for me is that it's going to change in a way that places emphasis on schools to do more. And we already know schools are stretched, teachers are at breaking point. So that worries me slightly. The whole EHCP thing. I mean, EHCPs aren't working. We've got timeframes. They're a legal document. They're not being followed. They're not being adhered to. We do need a needs-led approach, not around, a bit of paper. But there has to be something that a parent can hold people to account for and get the right support that their children are needing in the education system. So it can't just be a kind of poo-poo, shun it away, get rid of it, and let's leave it open. No, because we've got something that should be robust that isn't working. So we need to look at what's coming in place. But any changes, we have to make sure that we regain confidence in the system as parents, that we regain that confidence in the system. And we need to make sure that families' voices are heard. There was a documentary out a couple of weeks ago. Kelly Bright did it around, EHCPs and schools and SEND. We're not being heard. There are so many children that are unable to attend school. But there's a blame game on the families as to why the children are not attending. It's your parenting. You're not pushing hard enough. And that came out in the documentary. That comes out in the conversations I have with parents. I had an email through just last week from a parent, and the local authority and the schools locally basically have said, there's no place for him. Full stop. Like, that was the end of the sentence. There is no place for him. So she's a single mom. She has English as an additional language. Her child is spiraling into depression. So we've got the behaviours that are coming with that. He's not wanting to get out of the house. Just leave her. She's just been left. It's not on. So we need to stop in terms of a wish list. Voices need to be heard. We need to stop this whole blame and othering on parents. And it has to be reflective of a truly inclusive approach. We need to provide the right spaces to include our children in the classrooms with effective support, adequate TA support, because that's something, again, I had a meeting following the mock SATs debacle. I had a conversation with my son's teacher yesterday. He's on his own, 30 children in the class, and there are a variety of needs in that class. We need funding in our schools where we can get that effective support in the classrooms, so our children are not being pushed out to the side, which then adds to segregation and exclusion, not inclusion. So in terms of a wish list, families to be listened to, children to be heard, their voices to be heard, and to stop this blame culture for families.
I think that's, while it's not maybe the most positive question, it's a positive note to end on, because we can all hope that that's what the future looks like if we really move things along. Cheryl, where can people find out more about you and how to work with you? This is your chance to plug away.
Thank you. Website www.aperiontraining.co.uk. I'm over on the old socials, aperion_training, Instagram and Facebook. I've got my book, Neurodiversity in the Early Years, which is available at Amazon or through Routledge, the publisher. And I've just launched my online training as well, which is available on my website. So people can access me that way as well. Lots of different ways. But get in touch, join the conversation. There is a definite movement happening towards neurodiversity affirming practice. So if you want to be part of that movement, then come and make your voice heard. Come and have a conversation.
Wonderful.
That's a more positive note to end on.
Yes.
Love it, Cheryl. Yep. Thank you so much. It's been lovely to chat to you, and we'll catch up again soon.
Bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Well, phooey.
Absolutely not.
What a great
That's
episode.
outrageous.
That's I'm trying new intros to the outros.
All right.
Phooey. Okay. And it was a good episode. It was an episode worthy of a phooey, I think.
It was a good episode.
What was your favourite bit, Julia? What did you like?
Do you know what? I loved that she was talking about how we can be neurodiversity affirming right from the get-go, right?
From
when
the
we're
show
meeting
rounds.
parents, for the first time and on our website. And rather than starting out with those things like, differences and deficits and problems and, we're kind of getting positive to start with. And
we know,
I
and
love that.
especially like first-time parents are already, whether children are neurotypical or neurodivergent, they're already in that space of thinking, comparing and milestones and how's my child doing.
Always worrying about your children.
So for all the children, it's just good that you start with that idea of like, your children are going to progress here, but it's going to be in their own way. I think that's a great way of putting it.
Absolutely.
And if you were interested in what Cheryl had to say, definitely check her out on social media. She has loads of good stuff on there. And speaking of social media, if you should follow Family, where we share loads of tiny podcast clips on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on all the good stuff. We had a clip go viral recently, didn't we? Jay Doobs.
We did. Jan Dubiel,
Talking about play. A little bit of controversy always goes down well on social media.
Go check it out. Lovely.
And if you want to get in touch with us, as always, please do. tinychairpod@family.co.uk. We want to hear guest suggestions. We want to hear questions. We love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, get involved.
Get involved. And we'll see you again very soon.
Bye.
Bye.